am excited to introduce our esteemed speakers. Jeanette Haggis, she's AVP, Internal Audit and Risk Management. She's been with Calcoast for 2 years and has over 20 years experience working in risk management and for financial institutions. We also have Chris Atala, AVP of Compliance and Legal. And with that, Janet, the floor is yours.
Great. Thank you so much, Will. That was a great introduction. And I think that our team here, Will included, kind of gives us a good look at many different areas of fraud and consumer fraud in particular throughout the credit union. So as Will mentioned, I'm over internal audit and risk management. Chris is the credit union's BSA officer, Bank Secrecy Act, and he sees a lot of those suspicious transactions coming through and does a lot of monitoring and reporting of suspicious activities that we see here at the credit union. And then Will spent a very long time with our branch network and working in the branches and seeing our members come in with checks and helping them scrutinize and challenge any suspicious um, things that kind of walked through the door. So I think that the three of us collectively help or can kind of help us analyze some situations as we look at the common scams that people are seeing this holiday season. So first we have an agenda. So we're going to talk about why holiday scams are popular, why we see an increase in consumer scams in the holiday season. We're going to look at common holiday scams that are out there right now. Not all of them because there are so many, but specifically the ones that are impacting San Diego County. And then how consumers like us can protect themselves. And then we're also going to look at resources and then how to report suspicious texts that we get, emails, or if unfortunately for the victim of a scam or our loved ones are, then who do we report those to as well? And then finally, question and answers. So why do holiday scams increase? I think that the main reason here is just because of the increased online shopping. Everyone's very busy. People have returned to work. It's a lot more convenient to purchase online goods. There's some great deals out there, especially with the economy right now. People want to feel like they're getting a deal. Unfortunately, that exposes them to some malicious like websites and some deals that are too good to be true. So this says that Norton Antivirus estimates that 97% of holiday shoppers plan to buy their gifts online this year. That's I mean, that's practically everyone. And so with those higher transaction volumes, scammers really look to exploit the festive mood and the increased online shopping. Chris, would you like to, before we get into the common scams, would you like to speak a little bit about the elder financial exploitation that we see here at the credit union and that is really prevalent these days?
Yeah, of course. And thank you. And thank you all for attending today. One very strong area that we see today as a financial institution that we see scams happen to the individual class are our elder members. By definition, we call these protected class members. That is anyone who is age 60 or older as of 2023. And that is also dependent adults that are 18 or older. So every year, the Federal Bureau of Investigation produces what they call their elder fraud report. We currently have the statistics from 2023, and that's what's showing on your screen. So, what they have produced for financial institutions and the general public is that in 2023 there are over 100,000 victims age 60 or older. This equated to $3.4 billion in losses for these individuals, averaging right around 34,000 per victim. Year over year from 2022 to 2023, the FBI showed a 15% increase in victims and a 10% increase in total losses. Now, that may not seem high, but if we go back even one more year, from 2021 to 2022, that increase was 84%. In the total amount of losses. So, in addition to their report, they go state by state breakdown. And us here in California, unfortunately, led the way with $643 million in combined losses. And that was over $300 million more than any other state in the country. Fortunately, The website that the FBI has created to report these, which is called IC3, it stands for the Internet Crime Complaint Center. It serves as a central hub for reporting cyber-enabled crime. So it's run by the FBI. It provides a convenient reporting mechanism for individuals to report suspected criminal violations. And more importantly, it allows the FBI to investigate these, tie things together, potentially contact those victims of the scan. So it's a way for them to really highlight the importance of awareness and preventive measures for our elder class members, and for you, if you are one of those protected class members, to report that and for that to be investigated.
Great. Thank you, Chris. Also, when I saw that slide, I was reminded that an elder is technically 60 and above now. And before it used to be 65. So it still causes me to um, question that and think, wow, 60 is right around the corner. So definitely important and good for us to remain vigilant. Chris is also a lawyer. So that really helps us when we're reviewing regulations and determining what applies to our credit union, et cetera. So common holiday scams. Here are some top scams that we're seeing right now. I'm sure you've seen these come across your emails and across your cell phones as well. The top scam right now is online shopping fraud. So these are the fake websites and deals that offer too good to be true promotions, right? We've seen those on Facebook, right? It's like get a Louis Vuitton bag for $10, click here, right? Or Tiffany jewelry, etc. So those are definitely prevalent and out there right now. Phishing scams. So we have the fake emails, and then we also have the text messages, which are smishing. Package delivery scams. I don't know how many people are getting those right now. It's the USPS with a package for you. It's FedEx, it's DHL, etc. And then how do we respond to those fake delivery notifications? Gift card scams, and these are can mean one of two things, but here it means the scammers are requesting payment in gift cards, and we'll go over those as well. And then finally, investment scams. Cryptocurrency scams are all over the place. Chris has seen that. Here at the credit union, fortunately, our team does a good job detecting those and preventing them when possible, which is great. They've got some huge saves, they call them, which are much easier than recoveries, right? Because we're not always able to help our members recover the money. So we would much rather prevent that money from going out in the first place. So the first one is online shopping fraud. So there are some signs to consider when you're looking at a website and you're questioning whether this is a legitimate website or if it's a fake spoofed website. The first would be if there's no HTTPS in the URL. S stands for secured. Is there a little lock symbol to the left of that HTTPS? There are some indications there that will tell you how closely you need to scrutinize this website. And poor website design, does something seem kind of off to you? Do you notice some grammatical errors? Is the wording awkward? Unfortunately, with the advancement of AI, before we used to be able to look for misspellings, right? Or we'd look for things that said kindly or some wording that was awkwardly formal that a native speaker here in the US wouldn't necessarily use. But now with AI, a hacker can, or a bad actor can go into Chat GPT or Microsoft Copilot, et cetera, and say, rewrite this, revise this for grammar, et cetera, and then use that edited wording to take advantage of innocent people. And so I mentioned it already, but those unrealistic deals, so those luxury items for 1/3 of the price. And how can we protect ourselves? So first, we can verify the website legitimacy. We can check reviews of that website. And then we can also make sure to use secure payment methods. If we're buying something on a website that we thought was legitimate, but they want us to purchase gift cards and mail those in exchange for our designer purse or our timeshare special, et cetera, there are some flags there that should probably indicate that this is not a legitimate business transaction or transaction, nor is it a legitimate business that we're dealing with. And so some tips to stay safe while we're shopping online this holiday season. We need to remember to stick to the trusted sites, as we mentioned before, looking for the S in the HTTPS in the URL, and avoiding those obscure retailers, right? So those will be those URLs that have those really long descriptors that kind of tell us, wait a second, something's off here, right? A lot of dashes, for example, in the URLs. Be skeptical of deals, use those secure payment methods, and keep your software updated. Ensure that your browser, antivirus software, and your operating systems are up to date. Those will help you block those vulnerabilities, and avoid clicking on suspicious links. So if you see something marketed, for example, it's a Kate Spade outlet, um, uh, targeting you on Facebook, and you think that those deals look really great, then you can pause and then go to your internet browser and type in Kate Spade outlet, right? Or type in homedepot.com. And that will help make sure that you're going to the actual retailer and not a spoofed website. And then finally, remember to protect your network, especially at home on your personal devices. At work, our IT departments do a really good job making sure that we're protected. But here, use a trusted VPN at home, and even when you're out and about, right, and you're using someone's browser, just be really careful and make sure to use a secure connection.
And Jeanette, if you don't mind, can I add one more thing to
Yeah,
that?
of
And
course.
it's going on to something you touched on, which is verification. I think that's a really important piece. And while the internet and the digital age has created these new things for us to all be worried about and to be mindful of, we also still have go-to websites and go-to resources at our hand. So the Better Business Bureau is a great resource to check, is this company a legitimate one? In an age where most of you are probably on social media in one form or fashion, and you get our fun old cookies. Well, it's not Santa's cookies that we're used to leaving out in December. Cookies appear everywhere, probably on every site you go. You probably do get those ads for something you were just searching for when you're on Instagram or when you're on X or whatever it may be. And you should really try your best to really vet that out before, if you've never heard of the website. And for even the websites you have heard of, when you get those emails, you probably have received other ones. So check, see how it lines up against a past legitimate email to see, I wasn't expecting anything from them. I usually don't get anything. I'm not a subscriber. Those should be signs. If you don't remember ever putting in your information for them to contact you, if you don't ever remember visiting their website, that should put you on somewhat of at least a small alert to say, let me double check this. So everything Jeanette said is absolutely critical. And the add on to this is use those free resources that you have available and trust your gut.
That's great advice, Chris. And that's a good reminder, right? If Starbucks sends you a message and says, thanks for being a loyal customer, and you're like, wait a second, I've never gone to Starbucks, right? That email is probably not meant for you and
Mhm.
should definitely be scrutinized. Thank you. Um, So phishing scams. So in the world of like I know that here at the credit union, I help facilitate our social engineering assessments. So we have phishing, which are the emails with the links to obtain information. We have vishing, which are the phone call um, attacks, right, to get information divulged over the phone. And then we have smishing, which are those messages that are communicated through a text message through a cell phone. So here for phishing, because these are so common these days, we wanted to just really spend some time and look at how to recognize phishing attempts, what to do if you click on that link or you divulge information. What are your next steps? How can you protect yourself, right? Because sometimes we're just scrolling through our emails, and before we know it, we click and we're like, oh my gosh. And as soon as we've clicked, we know what we did. And so then how can we address that and protect ourselves? So the first thing is always looking at the email address of the sender and looking for something suspicious. Instead of starbucks.com, maybe it's starbuckscoupon.com, right? Looking for grammatical errors, although as I mentioned earlier, those are less prevalent these days with the advancements of AI. And then paying attention to urgent requests for information, right? Bad actors will try to, instill this sense of urgency, right? So then we're not thinking clearly. We just want to, um, you know, act and not have consequences, right? So if something is urgent, take a step back, pause, and think about why there is this urgency in the request. This is an example that we pulled of Netflix, like a Netflix scam. And so it looks legitimate, like, at first glance, you can see the Netflix up at the top. Um, and then you start kind of looking at it and you say, wait a second, hi dear, right? So the email has a generic greeting. That's red flag number one, right? The email says your account is on hold because of a billing problem. That's another red flag. And then the email invites you to click on a link to update your payment details. And once you click on that link, a few different things could happen. First, you could be asked to provide sensitive information that they could later exploit, or the bad actors could install malware on your device, and then they could access your bank accounts, et cetera, and just that could send you down a dangerous spiral. So again, at first glance, you think, okay, this looks like a legitimate message. I need to respond to it, especially because I don't want my account to be on hold. But definitely pause and then think before you click. Other common examples of phishing scams that we're seeing right now are your account has been locked. Click here to verify your identity. Or bogus bank fraud warnings. I don't know how many people have gotten text messages like these fraudulent ones on the right? But as soon as we see these, we think, oh my gosh, someone has our information. We need to protect ourselves. But the bad actors are counting on us responding to that and interacting and then providing or divulging sensitive information. And the hackers are so sophisticated these days, they can use geolocation and they can target people, like, for example, with this test with his text, they sent this to people who lived around a Patelco branch in Northern California, and people were more likely to actually have a Patelco account. Therefore, they were more likely to think that this was a legitimate fraud alert, and they needed to act quickly to prevent additional fraudulent transactions happening on their card. And that was really bad. That got a lot of people to fall for it. And unfortunately, Patelco spent a long time unwinding those. And then for retail, you've won a gift card. Click here to claim your prize. Or you've won the lottery, or congratulations, right? And then as soon as you start interacting, or you click on something, or you provide some information, that can just be used against you.
And, and Jeanette,
Yeah,
if I may,
of course.
if anyone does receive those text messages, one of the best ways to verify that is if you're suspicious of, would my financial institution really send me this message? Go to the website, whether you're a CalCoast member, Chase member, whatever it may be. We can say for ourselves, we post like what we would or would not text you on our website. That resource is on most financial institutions' own home web pages, and it's a quick and easy way to go online and say, oh, they would never text me these words. They would never ask me for this. And we state it very clearly. So that is the easiest way to check if you're suspicious about what you received, if whether that is valid or not, if it's a real thing. And so please use your financial institution, whoever you use, to validate that, and even call in if you need to. Every FI has a team dedicated to handle these types of calls. So it's a quick and easy way to verify before just taking action. It's a tough way to take a step back when you get those messages, but nothing's going to happen in the next 30 seconds likely. So I would suggest always going to the financial institution's website first and verifying what they would ever text you or message you about when it comes to these kind of things.
Absolutely, Chris. And if someone calls on the phone and says, we are your financial institution and we need you to provide this information, everybody has the right to say, thank you so much. Please give me a phone number to call you back at. But even better, just hanging up and then calling the financial institution directly, getting that information off of the website, as Chris mentioned. So um, banks and credit unions and all financial institutions will never ask you for your security codes or your special passwords, et cetera. Nothing sensitive like that over the phone. They especially will not seek you out to obtain that information. So here on this slide, we have an example of a 2023 PayPal fake website. So website spoofing is very common today. Fortunately, some big companies, I know our credit union subscribes to this as well. We sweep the internet constantly looking for spoofed websites, and then we get those down as soon as possible. So I know that a lot of other like large companies do that as well to keep their members and their customers safe. So that's great. This on the screen is an example of one that PayPal did not catch in 2023, or once they caught it, it was very hard for them to take it down. Um, a bunch of like fraudulent, like fake sites popped up all at once, and so PayPal didn't catch this one right away. So on the left is um, the legitimate site, right? And then on the right, you can see how close that looks, but it's not legitimate, right? You can see paypal.com. And so if someone's not looking very closely, they're just going to read it possibly as PayPal, and they're going to continue to interact with the site. Um, so users were prompted to log into their PayPal accounts. And once the users submitted their details, then the hackers stole their credentials, took over their accounts, drained their bank accounts. And this attack in particular affected thousands of users and resulted in millions of dollars in estimated losses. And if you're the consumer and you divulge this sensitive information, then you're ultimately liable for that money that you've lost, right? So that was a big hit for a lot of consumers. And I know that everyone is focused on building awareness. So we can, scrutinize and not find ourselves in that situation. So how to protect yourself from phishing attacks. So hopefully we all have email spam filters that seem to, quarantine or, trap a lot of different emails. I mean, even good ones, right? But scammers are always trying to outsmart those email filters. Some things that we can do, as mentioned earlier, is to protect our computers and then our cell phones by using that security software. Set the software to update automatically, so it can always be on the most recent version to combat any recent security threats. And then also ensure that you update the apps on your cell phone, because that will ensure that you're protected there as well. And then this is always just a plug for multi-factor authentication. I know that it's difficult. It's a lot easier to just have one password, but MFA, or multi-factor authentication, really is, the golden standard for ensuring that our accounts are protected and our sensitive information is protected. The extra credentials, because in multi-factor authentication, we're looking for two or more different types of credentials. And so those extra credentials that you need to log into your account fall into three categories. So something like your passcode, your password, a PIN, or the answer to a security question. So that's something that's in your head. And the way that people are going to get that is by either getting you to divulge that information over the phone, by getting you to type it into a, a fake site, or maybe by hacking into the system and obtaining the information that way. Something that you have. And so that would be a one-time verification passcode that you get by text or email or an authenticator app. I think I have a few different ones on my phone for, Okta or a few other ones, or a security key. And then something that you are. So that's the scan of your fingerprint, your retina, or your face. So if you can use authentication credentials from two of those categories, that really helps keep you protected. I know it's a lot easier for us to just stick with that something but any chance where, especially if we have administrator privileges, any chance where we can ensure that other authentication methods are added or layered, that just ensures the security of our information, and then, even other people's information that we have in our possession. So what to do if you responded to a phishing email? So as we mentioned earlier, sometimes we don't think before we click, and then we realize once we've clicked that we just broke the rules, right? So what do we do? And so if we feel like the scammer has our information, like our social security number, our credit card, or maybe we typed in our bank account number, then we can go to identitytheft.gov, and there we will be walked through the different steps that we can do to protect ourselves, monitor our credit reports, etc. And then if you think that you clicked on the link or opened an attachment that downloaded harmful software or malware, then the best thing you can do is to update your computer's security software. So that will run a scan. It will remove anything it identifies as a problem. In fact, if your device is running slow or it just doesn't feel right, you can always update your software and just knock out anything that might be lingering there. So how to report phishing. If you got a phishing email or text message, you can report it. If you got it, at work, then I'm sure you have procedures that you know about there. But if it's on your personal device, then you can forward the emails to this anti-phishing working group on the screen. You can forward your text message to spam, or you can report the phishing attempt to the Federal Trade Commission, the FTC, and all of these people or groups will kind of track the trends and address based on the severity of what they're seeing and the volume, et cetera. But when in doubt, report. Let's see. Package delivery scams. So I mentioned these earlier, but these are those fake delivery notifications, requests for personal information. These are so prevalent right now because we're doing so much online shopping. And there's some ways that we can protect ourselves. First, we shouldn't click on the links in the message about an unexpected delivery. So if you get a message about an unexpected package that tells you to click on a link, just don't click it, right? Contact the shipping company directly, contact the company that you do have a pending order with to check on the shipping status with that company directly. Um, it might seem easy to just click on the link, or USPS might say in a fraudulent text to you, it might say, click on this now, otherwise we're going to return your package, right? And so that's an inconvenience. You don't want that, and you might be more likely to click on it. But just pause, think about whether you're expecting a package, and then either contact that shipping company or the retailer that you bought the item from. Chris, could you talk a little bit about investment fraud scams that you're seeing, or that some of your peers at other financial institutions here in San Diego are seeing?
Yeah, absolutely. Investment frauds is one of the areas that we actually see growing quite significantly, especially in the past 2 years. This is basically when, and similar to what Jeanette talked about earlier, it's when attackers and hackers and scammers create a fake website that basically clones what you would think is a legitimate website into making it a fraudulent website so they can ascertain your information. So attackers replicate the websites of investment platforms, brokerage firms, financial service providers, and they do this to lure their victims, right? And they do that by saying, we're going to promise you a high return on investments, such as cryptocurrency or real estate or whatever it may be. And that's why we think you should, sign up with us and deposit money. What this has actually led to over the years is something that a lot of you may not have heard of before, but fortunately has started in 2024 catching a lot of national media attention, and it's very well needed. And it's a scam called pig butchering. So to explain what pig butchering is, it's basically the same thing. It's a type of online investment fraud, and it's where the scammers will build trust with the individual over time. So you can think back to old days of romance scams. You hear that all the time, catfishing. This is where they actually spend more time just building that relationship. They try to pose as successful investors or just as a friend, or hey, I'm single, I'm trying, I meet you on a dating app or social media. And what they do is over time, they try to what we call fatten up your victim. And that's by gaining the trust of the individual. And what they do is say, after some time, they'll say, hey, you should make an investment in this. I've made so much money on this. And so they'll encourage and then convince an individual to make a small investment. And then what they'll do is they'll show a fake return. They'll say, hey, you invested $1,000. Look, you already made $4,000 in a month. And sometimes they will actually send you $4,000 because what they're targeting you to do is, why don't you invest larger? You feel like you already won. and they keep layering it and layering it and layering it until they've hit a point where they think this is great, I've made enough money off this person, and then they do what's called slaughtering, which is they run away with the money, and that individual is left high and dry. We see this a lot in cryptocurrency. We see this a lot in international romance scams. And actually, just a few weeks ago, Meta, so Facebook, Instagram, they deleted 2 million accounts that were tied to pig butchering scams. So they actually have created their own team to monitor accounts across their social media platforms to focus on what they think are international scams. And unfortunately, these are really robust and really diverse group sets across the country. And people actually in human trafficking have been pulled into this, where they will be put in a warehouse and they are, attempting to do these scams for someone that they've fallen victim to themselves. So this is something that is really growing and really on top of mind. And this is not your old, I talk to you for 2 days and I'm done. This is, I will spend months investing my time into scamming you, and then I will pull the rug from under you. So, if you get those random texts, hi, Stacy, I hope you're coming to dinner tonight. And then you respond, I think you have the wrong number. And then they say, oh, I'm sorry. I thought this was the number for my friend Stacy, but it's nice to meet you. Like I'm so and so. Who are you? And then that's how they build it. So if you get those texts, I would delete and report those immediately. Unless you truly know someone named Stacy that or another person that maybe you had dinner plans with. So
Chris, that reminds me of something that I heard where someone who's a scam victim once is statistically far more likely to fall victim to a scam again. So you think that once someone falls for something, then they're going to be like extra vigilant, right? They're not going to take any risks, et cetera, but they're actually more likely. And then I also remember hearing, I think it was the FBI, and they were sharing that these crime syndicates are so well organized and structured that once they perform a scam across a group of people, then they take that contact information and pass it off to another arm of that crime syndicate, who then reaches out posing as a scam recovery service, and they target those initial victims, and they say, hello, we're aware that you recently fell prey to a scam, and if you wire us this much money, we will help you get your $200,000 back, or your $100,000 back, etc. All you have to do is pay $5,000 right now. And so then those people say, okay, absolutely, the banks can't help me right now, like nobody can help me pursue this money, the FBI isn't getting back to me, et cetera. So therefore, I will wire you that $5,000, and then you can go track down my 200,000 and recover that for me. Thank you so much. And then once that money is wired, often internationally, then this other arm of the crime syndicate just disappears. And then this person is left not only victim to that initial scam, but then also that follow-up recovery scam as well.
yeah, and that's absolutely true. And the best piece of advice, really, Jeanette, when you run into these situations, or when we talk to these individuals that may be members of ours at times, right, is to always remember, don't act out of fear, act out of rationality, right? So to ask yourself, why would I have to give you money to get money back, right? Unless you're the Internal Revenue Service, you're likely not giving money to get money back. So it comes down sometimes. It's unfortunate to say, to ask yourself, does this seem like, common sense? And if it doesn't, check it, right? Do everything you can to say, this seems a bit off. 9 out of 10 times, I would say people who have an instinct that something is off are correct about that instinct. So you need to, remember to trust yourself and to trust that instinct.
Absolutely. And the fraudsters know that, right? And so they definitely do not want you to share this, like whatever situation you're in, right? They don't want you to share this with your family members or with the financial institution that you're walking in to wire money out, right? And they kind of control that narrative, and then they get in the head of the victim,
Yeah.
and do everything in their power to make sure that that victim doesn't run that scenario by someone else, because sometimes just when you're saying it, right? And we've heard this, I'm sure you have too, Chris, on the phone, but we've heard this where we're talking to the member and they're like, no, this is a legitimate relationship that I'm in with Mila Kunis, the actress. She just needs me to wire her this $50,000, and then we're going to be together. And then as soon as that member says that out loud, they hear themselves and they say, wait a second, actually, that does seem suspicious. Let's pause. Maybe I won't send that wire now, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And, it's a reminder to everyone that we live in real life, and what you see in movies is typically not what really happens, right? So if someone's threatening that I have your nephew with me and you better send $50,000, don't say a word. Think about it. You have no help if you don't say a word. Likely that it's a complete scam, but call the authorities. Bring them into the picture. Come to your financial institution. We will help you call the authorities.
Hmm.
But at the end of the day, law enforcement is our friends from both a financial institution perspective and from just being a normal citizen perspective. So, there's a lot of ways to instill that fear to get you to react. And that's the key to remember is don't react. Take a step back, take a breath, and think about what's being asked of you or what you're about to do.
Absolutely. Thank you, Chris. Here we have some general tips on staying safe. I'd like to just kind of go through the top ones, and then maybe Chris, if you could, I know you mentioned working with the authorities, if you could elaborate a little when we get down to the
Mhm.
bottom of the slide, that would be great. So, just reminders to practice good cyber hygiene. So, keeping that software updated. I know we continue to bring that up, but it's so important. Doing those updates is so important. Set automatic updates, and then use strong passwords. Even though even though those are hard to remember, it's so important. So, if you're ever curious about how hard it would be to crack your password, there are some free sites on the internet where you can. They'll tell you, okay, it would take a hacker 2 hours to guess this, or 10 minutes or 3 minutes, right? And so you can just do a kind of a temperature check on your personal passwords to see how hard those are to crack. And then monitor your own financial situation. So pull your credit reports periodically, check those bank and credit card statements. The sooner that you can catch something, the sooner you can uh, you know, h- head off anything else that might be really really detrimental to your financial situation. Our credit union is always monitoring transactions, looking for those suspicious transactions, and then we'll call you to give you a heads up. But definitely own your financials and continue to review those. Chris, could you talk a little bit about how to report suspicious activity, specifically when it comes to the local authorities or the
Yeah,
FBI?
of course. If you think you've been a victim of a scam or fraud or you see unusual activity, you know, absolutely never be afraid to call your local law enforcement, right? A lot of people we talk to that have fallen victim, feel look back and say, I should have contacted them right away. They are there to help you. They have stronger and more authority than we do as a financial institution, but we work hand in hand with them. So first step should always be contact the local law enforcement, or alternatively contact the FBI. Both have dedicated teams to fraud. I mentioned it earlier on one of our slides about elder financial exploitation. The IC3 is a great place to go if you fall victim to a scam, right? Again, that is how the FBI tracks these things. That's how they look into scenarios that are happening across the U.S. And that's how they investigate things that even are happening to you, specific to you, and you can put in as much information as you want. So definitely also file an IC3 complaint, which can be done at ic3.gov. Um, Moreover, notify your financial institution. We do have the capability to say, "Hey, we're on alert. Let's watch this person's account the best we can. If you think something's happening, we want to know so we can put blockers in place or we can pause those transactions." And then, of course, as Jeanette mentioned earlier, contact the FTC. They have almost every major government authority that has a hand in frauds and scams has their own reporting function. That one is reportfraud.ftc.gov. But everyone's here to help. So if you think you're a victim, don't stay quiet. Sometimes people are embarrassed, and we completely understand that. But the law enforcement agents that we deal with are always here to help, and we want to cooperate and help them so we can try to recover funds or we can try to stop this from happening to someone else. And I can tell you right in front of me, I know you all can't see this. I have cards of contact from agents at the IRS, Homeland Security, FBI. I actually walk past a U.S. Assistant attorney who prosecutes financial crimes almost every day when I'm walking my dog. She lives in my neighborhood. She has come to speak to Calcos employees to help strengthen our abilities to help you all. So contact your local authorities. And I'm going to add one more thing too, something that's excuse me, on the early one of the top bullets here, which is using strong passwords. I know it's a little shift, but everyone's trying to saying like, man, it's so difficult to really hone in on a password that makes sense. And you'll hear, why don't you use a song lyric? There's a new thing that also can help, and I just want to throw it out there, which is take out the vowels. So if I said, hey, my password's NVR GNN GVYP, that would mean nothing to you, and you would say, how do I remember that? But I can tell you that is a nice honor to the great Rick Astley, and that's never going to give you up without the vowels. So it's an easy way to strengthen your password significantly by just taking out the vowels, but you don't have to forget what it is. So create a song, pick your favorite song lyric, make it a little longer, and then just take out the vowels. And it may take you an extra few seconds, but you'll never forget that all you have to do is take out the vowels.
Um, that's a great point, Chris. And I know that like many of us have had our passwords compromised, and we know that, right? But it's just that I don't know, it's just so cumbersome, right? To go back out to all of these websites and then rechange our passwords, etc. But I think we're all going to be using Rick Astley, so
Go for it.
without the vowels. Thank
And
you.
it's no longer my password. So if I don't, you guys can try, but it won't work anymore for me.
One more comment on contacting the local authorities. I think you can definitely call the credit union. CalCoast has many different folks here who can help. A benefit of calling local law enforcement is that they know what the scams are out there right now, right? So even if you have a great cryptocurrency deal that seems, maybe too good to be true, you can call and you can say, "Hey, are you getting any crypto scams right now? Are you aware of this?" And then they have people that are there to help us and provide any trends that they're seeing, and they can say, "Yes, it sounds legit," or here's some resources that you might want to look into because it sounds a lot like this scam that's out there right now. Let's see. We're doing great on time. It's 12:45. Um, Here are some of the websites that we've mentioned. The Federal Trade Commission has some great stuff on current scams, examples of the scams. If you have a solar person coming door to door, and it seems too good to be true, or someone wants your gas and electric bill, etc., you can go to the FTC website, see what's out there, and then even submit uh, that email to them so they can track and monitor that. Chris talked about the IC3, which was stood up by the FBI and offers some great assistance. And then the AARP has a really great fraud watch network. And if you have elders in your life that you're a little concerned about them opening their mail and what they're going to do when they're on their own and you're not around them, you can just give them this phone number, and then they can just call as they're opening their mail. If anything sounds suspicious, just get that extra pair of eyes on it. Not a problem. They're there to help. They have a lot of services on their website and then also over the phone, which is really nice. And the down at the bottom here, um, if if you suspect that your card has been compromised, you can always call the credit union or your bank to have them put a hold on suspicious transactions. You are not troubling us. We are here to help. We can go over your account activity with you and help address anything or nip it in the bud. So happy to help. And then when should you report a scam or fraud? So if you get a suspicious call or text or email requesting your bank account number, instructing you to buy a gift card or promising a prize or a gift, you should report that. If you gave money or your financial information or your medical information to someone who you now suspect was a scammer, you should report that. And then if you're talking to a relative or a friend or a coworker and they mention that they gave money or something of value to a suspected scammer, you should also report that or tell your friend or family member or coworker to report that as well. So in conclusion, um, there's an increase in holiday scams. It's not a surprise to us. It's just a reminder for us to be extra vigilant right now and to protect ourselves and make sure to use secure payment methods, report suspicious activity to your financial institution, local law enforcement. If you're at work, your IT help desk, following those procedures that you have there. And remember that if it sounds too good to be true, it most likely is. Thank you. And thank you, Chris, for all of your contributions as well.
Yeah, thank you all. And before we throw it back to Will, he did put something in the chat he's probably going to speak about. It is I know we just probably scared some of you. It is a safe link. There is an S after HTTP, and I'll let him say some more words on that.
Thank you, Chris and Jeanette. That was a lot of great information. I just want to remind everybody, if you have a question, please utilize the Q&A function so that we can answer those questions for you. But one question that I'd like to ask Jeanette or Chris, can you tell us about spoofing?
Ah,
Oh, yeah,
go ahead.
go. I know.
No.
I'll start and then Chris can finish. But so spoofing is where a bad actor gets a hold of either either creates a fake website to replicate a legitimate website, or pretends to be someone else's identity and just gets the target, whoever they're targeting, to interact with them in the way that they would if they were dealing with a legitimate um, business or person. Chris, go ahead.
Yeah, actually, it's a really good question. Will, I can tell you as a little intro to my response here that when I was much younger, I used to, one of my local food marts had a little stand with cards that you could buy for like $10, and it was a spoofing card. So at that time, when I'm not a professional, I never thought about it. It's like I wanted to prank my friends, and what it allowed you to do is to call anyone's number, but you could choose the number that would appear on the phone. So two areas we see spoofing today is on your phone calls and on your emails. And so for those in attendance today, one thing you may see from your phone carrier is the check marks, right? That is a verified, trusted source, because individuals now have the capability of calling you, and it could show up as your mom, it could show up as your brother, it could show up as your uncle, because all they need to know is that number. And if they program it properly, it will trigger your phone to think it's that number, but it's really
Mhm.
not. So that
Right.
verified check mark is a very important thing. And same for emails, which is making sure that email is from a trusted source, that it looks like all the things Jeanette went over about what would look valid in an email. But I would say personally, the phone call spoofing is one that we all need to be very vigilant on today, and ensuring that if you answer that call and it seems a little off right at the beginning, ask questions. Jeanette said it herself. You have no obligation to ever keep talking to someone on the phone. And if it's a financial institution or someone posing as a financial institution, you can say, give me the number and I'll call you back. Or go on the website, call and say, did you just call me? Every time we make a call from Calcos, we typically have a record of that call, right? That we called an individual to look into something, because if we are calling, we're calling about something important. So watch out for phone spoofing, watch out for email spoofing, and then on top of the website ones that are also very important, because they're ways to easily capture your sensitive information.
Great, thanks, Chris. One thing I wanted to mention too, when you're getting a phone call, let's say even if it's from Cal Coast, and you see that on the caller ID, I just recommend hanging up and either calling the branches directly, call your credit union, or walk into a branch and ask them if they've tried to contact you, because you just never know if that's a legitimate call or not. And then secondly, branch staff are trained. We're constantly training about looking for fraudulent checks and wires or suspicious wires. So you may walk into a branch and you might get questioned by the tellers or other branch staff regarding checks you're depositing or the wires that you want to initiate. It's for your protection. They're trying to protect you. They want to make sure it's a legitimate transaction, that you know what you're doing, because if we can prevent it ahead of time, then that's what we want to do. Because once your wire is out, your money's gone. So we want to ensure that you are protected our branch staff is trained. We may ask you a lot of questions that you think might be out of line or too intrusive, but we're doing it just for your protection because we know it's unusual from your typical transaction history. So we will ask those questions. So just keep that in mind when you're going into a branch and they ask you questions. Where is the check from? What is it for? Or who is this wire to? What is it for? Do you know them? It's for a reason. It's really to protect you. Okay. Let's see. Another question that came through was, how can we protect our seniors that are using iPads or tablets and phones and clicking on links and maybe going to websites they shouldn't? Is there any way that we can protect our seniors or elderly from any of these types of scams?
Yeah, the hardest part, you can't put blocker, you think about all the we think of it in reverse, right? Well, which is putting in all these parental controls for our kids these days. I don't know if you want to go down that route with a senior, unless you believe that you need to do that for that individual you're helping. But the best way to do it is to show them the dangers that are out there, right? To tell them the internet is a beautiful thing, and especially for a lot of our elder citizens, they haven't had it their whole life with this. But there are so many bad actors out there to show them, to have these trusted websites. One thing I like to do, I used to do with my grandfather, who was very much in line with when he started using a computer. Click, 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 click. Which was, let's go to your most commonly visited websites and let's create bookmarks. So you're not going through 6 different channels to do that. I'm going to set it up for you so you have your bookmarks at top, all these websites, and here's the real link to Google. Here's the real link to the news sites you like to visit. Here's the real one to he was a Ford man and your Ford websites, and so that helped prevent the click around that you may not want to have happen.
I agree. I would also say that education piece is really important, which is why CalCoast is doing this webinar, which is why CalCoast has another webinar hosted by the DFPI next week. It's really just educating ourselves and then in turn educating our family members. And I would even go so far as saying never send a wire. Like if you have an elderly relative who lives alone, I would tell them never send a wire. If you're ever going to send a wire, regardless of the situation, please talk to me about it first, because that's really how people can fall victim to, just like hundreds of thousands of dollars, right? It's a little like some of the other stuff is kind of nickel and diming, I think, but it's really those wires that can cause the biggest losses.
Thank you. Thank you for that. Another question that came in, if we fall victim and there's loss, what recourse do we have?
That's probably the toughest question of them all, Will. A lot of the times, by the time things are discovered, or a financial institution can look into it, or the law enforcement can look into it, there's not much to do. That is why I cannot stress enough that the moment you find out you may have been a victim, you open that case with law enforcement and you let your financial institution know. And every day that passes is another day that makes it more difficult for your financial institution to try to claw back that money, with depending on how you send it, and is another day that the money can be moved around and law enforcement can't track it. I can tell you from when I discuss pig butchering and these crypto scams, there has been a very, very low success rate in recovering that funds. However, there is positive news, and it actually is happening in the state of California, which is one of the prosecutors in Orange County just became the first one to successfully win a case against an international scammer in a pig butchering scheme, and recovered some of the funds for the victims. So on the bigger ones, it's very difficult to recover those funds. On things like credit card fraud, or your information's hacked and someone starts using your card, that is actually something we can have a higher likelihood, but it depends on when you report it. So when Jeanette said check your statements regularly, check your account, it is very important. There is a very beneficial aspect of having apps in a smartphone now, which is you can quickly check your financial account like that, 10 seconds, okay, nothing looks bad, and you can go on with your day versus the old days where you have to like, do I have the paper with me? What do I do here? Do I have to wait for a statement to come in? So I would highly suggest staying on top of your financial statements and reporting immediately. You know, we at CalCos are all about protecting you and all about helping you. And so if you even suspect something, we want to know. I have always been a proponent of I'd rather have 99 people report something to me and it's all, you know, completely fine just to catch that one than one person reporting to me and 99 falling victim. So it is our job to assist you where we can, and we do not mind being, you know, flooded with suspicious potential activity, and we want to know about that. And the sooner we do, the better it is.
I agree, Chris, because I think a main reason that people delay reporting is because they're embarrassed. And I think it's important to know that we have heard it all, right? And we're compassionate and we will listen to you and we will try to help. And whatever recourse is there, we will definitely do our best to advise you and facilitate that. But we can't help you if we don't know about it. So it just
Yeah.
kind of pushing that embarrassment to the side, like we understand and, we'll sympathize and be compassionate as we're trying
And
to help you.
And on in that same vein, Jeanette, I will add to this, you know, those on this webinar that those statistics I showed you from the FBI, that 3.4 billion in losses, those are only the losses that have been reported through that portal. And if you speak with the FBI, like we have, most of the agents that really rely on that website will tell you that the numbers are probably actually grossly underreported by almost tenfold. So they really put it at closer to $30 billion and probably almost a million victims. And it's just that aspect of awareness that the site exists, but also that embarrassment factor. People just kind of get defeated after it happens. But you have to ask yourself, you know, is all hope lost? No. Is it an uphill battle? Probably. But also, do you want that happening to others? So that is why that reporting function, you don't have to be embarrassed to, you know, you want to still make an attempt. And I really implore everyone, if you know someone who's fallen victim or who becomes a victim, please do your best to, you know, convince them to report.
Great. Thank you very much, Jeanette, Chris. That was a lot of really great information. I want to thank each and every one of you for spending the afternoon with us. We sincerely hope that you've gained new and valuable insights today that you can apply to your financial journey. Your presence has truly made a difference, and we appreciate you taking the time out of your busy day to join us this session. I just want to say happy holidays, happy new year. Jeanette, Chris, thank you very much. We appreciate all that information. If you have any questions, feel free to reach out to me, and we'd be happy to help you. So with that, have a great afternoon, have a happy holiday, and happy new year.